context because context could be a lot of things, honestly. Like context could be your NQ that you're looking at that's telling you something. Um, but yeah, for me, when I say context, I'm just referring to those resistance points or support points that it has been tested before. Let me just pull this up so it makes a little more sense. Like just looking at ES here on the 4 hour, you can see how I extended my key zones. And here clearly this was resistance, popped up, held as support once, broke through, and yet it popped and got through it. But you can see like if you zoom out, it would this was holding as a little area. So this was resistance here, this was resistance here, also support here. And then later on in the months, this held as support also. So like just seeing how that happens. And then this area held as support too, which was resistance. So just being aware of like these little weird zones that it creates
Mhm.
gives those demand zones that form later more more reliability, I guess you could say. Like if the market were to keep dropping, this would have been my next zone, just because the box aligns with this resistance that was over here. So when I draw a
Thank
zone,
you.
that's one of the main things I'm looking at. Like go on the 4 hour, and if you have to put it on your big ass screen, put it on your big ass screen so you could really see like what does this zone align with? And you could even see here like the demand zone that I marked was right here, but if you extend it here, it aligns. If you extend it here, it aligns. If you extend it here, it aligns. And sometimes your line may not fully align with it, but your zone itself, the box, does align with it. So I would
That right there helped me because I was just going by the top line, and then I think you said something a long time ago about the box aligns with this. I was like, oh, I didn't think about the box aligning, so
yeah.
that helped me a lot.
And that honestly changed my whole perspective on even that how you said like going against the trend or whatever. Sometimes we take trades going against the trend. Like knowing that we're bouncing off of a key demand zone helps me not go against the trend. Because if this was a key demand zone and we were hitting a weak supply zone, I'm not gonna force the trade short because I know we just bounced off of this key demand zone. So now in my head, I'm also considering the fact that if this is a weak supply zone up here, this could end up being a supply zone that like we chop in and then pop up to keep pushing
What if
higher
it's
into
what
the the
what if
real key supply.
what if it's a strong supply zone? You just wait for
Then
the
in that
outlier.
yeah, then in that case, I'll have to wait for the outlier. Like
Okay.
here, we bounced off of a key demand zone and went into a key supply zone, but I also was considering the fact that I had this other key supply zone up here, so I was like, okay, just be and this was also like sloppy to me. I didn't we even said it. I didn't like my zones here. So I had to be very careful with what decisions I made. And that's still something I think I got to work on, like just kind of yeah, have an idea. But even when I looked at this supply zone, I didn't really like how it aligned with everything. Like it just like if you extend this, kind of just doesn't look as clean as these zones do over here, as the way this zone aligns with
Yeah.
this area here.
Okay. Yeah.
So like when that happens, that's also part of the reason why I didn't trade because yeah, it was a key supply zone and you guys did find opportunity. But even if you look at the day on the 5 minute, like it was a very choppy day. So like I was more like, okay, let me just sit sideline, see what's playing out here.
Yeah.
But I mean, this supply zone really did still play a key zone that didn't break out of. And if you extend the box, Look at how it aligns with this support, it aligns with this support, and then it's also the top of this resistance. And we ended up just chopping inside this zone all day. So that's what I mean by context. But that just, it's taken me time to really develop that more and more. So that will take you some time.
It's just training in your eyes. You'll eventually get it.
And you'll see that those things that like how we seen that supply zone be a choppy day. I'm sure like later on, months from now, we're gonna see it again, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, I've seen this before." Ooh. 16. Anyone take trades this day?
Yeah, I took 2 losses after 7.
Nope.
I took 1 trade.
You won, huh?
I exited early though.
You took a short.
Yes.
And I kind of had like.
Oh, did I give my screenshot?
No, not yet.
Oh yeah, sure.
I was a little surprised by your trade because it was a short. There are demand zones. And I think emotionally, I was like, oh, maybe I should take a trade. Except I didn't take the same thing you did.
Yeah, how do I say it? I don't, just because it's in demand, I don't tell myself like it's automatically going to be a reversal trade. Like I'm open to the fact that it could break through it. One thing that did make me nervous, part of the reason why I exited early, was that SPY was coming down into the trend line, but it ended up breaking it. So that did kind of suck.
But the cool thing is, I noticed on my, because I highlight red or green depending on the win or loss, and my reds are like just less than $10 losses, and then my greens are like 20 and up.
That's how it should be.
Yep.
That's cool.
So 59.91 was my key demand.
Can't see book that.
You can't see book that.
And then my trade eventually went in my favor, where this is where I think a dom would be perfect.
Why?
Because it went past my box, like just like in your screenshot, it went past the supply box. I mean the demand box, and I still took a long, but maybe I didn't know where exactly the selling was drying up and stuff like that, and it hit my stop. So I was like, oh, I got to get out. But then it just hit my stop, and it passed my stop by like a point or two, and then it went in my favor. And I'm assuming if you had like the dom, I could see, oh, it's drying up, so maybe I could have set like a stop at a little more risk.
Look at this. Hold up, I'm gonna put my other screen. I screenshotted my is it this one? That shit was a lot of chop though. Look at all that chop that happened before it finally pushed. What time did you get in?
7:05:22.
So you got in right in the beginning of the chop. It chopped for like an hour almost before it finally took off. Yeah, that would have been tough.
I got out within the minute, so it hit my stop. So I didn't hit it. I probably didn't create a good stop either.
That shit was swinging nasty too. But I like how if I were, I probably wouldn't even trade it because it's already 8 a.m. by this time almost. But uh, when it pulled back here, Spy was holding my trend line the whole time, so that would have been a. I wouldn't have taken it unless there was like a clear outlier, but this was
Oh, you know
cool to
what?
see that it.
I messed up. My first trade was a short. That's the one I think it was based off what I heard you say. So that's why I broke my rule. I took shorts in a demand zone, and then my second trade was at 712. That was the one that was a long, but it was wrong. I just hit my stop.
In my journal, I wrote though that it was a choppy day because even if like there was no direction in the overall throughout the whole day, like it just was swinging up and down. So there was opportunities, but the past 2 days, Thursday and Friday, were choppy. Oh, and that's what I was saying, where like after a large ass move from the CPI, the next day tends to be choppy. Uh, the only reason I say that is because it tends to happen pretty often. When it's like 100 point move, 80 to 100 point move, after that, the next day, the market kind of just digests what just happened. Either it's going to digest what just happened, or the next day is also going to be another large move. I usually see that happen. Because when we were on this sell off, well, even if you look here, are you guys looking at my chart right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at this large sell off, and then look at the next day. It just stood in this range right here. Look at this large push, and then it just stood in this range right here. Where else? This one doesn't. Or look at here, a large drop, and then the next day, another big drop. And then the next 2 days, or the next day, kind of choppy. The next day, large drop. This one took off though. So it's not always going to be like that, but for the most part, you do see a large drop, then consolidation, large push, consolidation, or large drop, and then another big drop. It just
Never
varies, but
it's never a large drop and a large rally.
Mm-hmm.
So we can assume that it's not going to do the opposite whenever there's a large move, right?
I mean, this one is what this
Oh,
view.
right there. Oh shit. Okay, never mind. Well, he's debunked.
But what I will point out is that when it dropped, it was at a key demand zone. So like, but the pop started happening in pre-market or overnight session. Um, but I would say for the most part, like if you see a large, super large move, just kind of just be cautious the next day of like expecting another big opportunity. Don't expect another big opportunity.
Quick
Kind of
fill
just
the next day.
yeah, exactly.
That drop is where Dylan made his 200K, huh?
I think so. Yeah, I don't remember.
I remember because
His trades are so spaced out that I can't keep up. I can't
I remember
remember
because
it.
I looked at it and I'm like, damn, because it stalls at some point and that big drop, and I'm like, why didn't you get out there? And he just stayed in, and I was like, fuck, how would you stay in there? It like
Wait,
stalled in the
he
middle.
never sold.
Well, I'm
He didn't
assuming
sell.
I forgot how
No, he
I
made profit. I don't know where he sold them.
he might have took profit,
Oh,
unless he got the 200K. I would have thought the 200K came from the entire drop, but maybe he got to depending on how many contracts. Maybe he did get out at the stall, which was still this.
Also, one thing
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to point out, this is brand new. I've never mentioned this, but there's this ETF called SOX, and it follows all the semiconductors. So if you see here, it's Philadelphia Semiconductor Index. Uh, Dylan uses this as a level of potential support for the overall market, since the overall market does follow tech companies. And he keeps referencing this as an area where the trend line. This is on the daily. The trend line whenever socks hit the trend line. ES is usually falling at the same time that socks is falling, but when socks holds the trend line, ES tends to bounce off of that. So, for example, what day is this? This is 12/20. Let's see what ES did on 12/20. Oh shit. This like you don't have to pay attention to while the market's opening. It's just like the night before, just see like, oh, where's socks at? 12/20. Look at that. We bounced clearly off this super strong demand zone and created this super large rally. And socks also hit that trend line on 12/20 and created that large rally. So I've seen him reference this. He's like, "Oh, socks is coming down to that trend line. Be careful about shorting if socks doesn't break the trend line." And sure enough, it ends up holding and supporting.
We have to chart this now.
No, I don't even chart it. I just do the trend line.
Just the trend line.
Yeah, just because it's been obeying it for so long. He's just like, be cautious of that. And this is all semiconductors, so NVIDIA, AMD, TSM, all those main semiconductors. They've been the ones. Like that. You don't like that?
No, I don't like that it's heading towards resistance if it has AMD. AMD's been scaring me.
But it's rejected it multiple times, so it could break through on this next test, or it could reject again. But yeah, that's just something for context over a larger span.
When did he say that?
He touches on it pretty frequently for the past year, I'd say.
Shit.
But he kind of like just really hints at it. He doesn't like put emphasis on it. So that's why I also don't put too much emphasis on it. It's just something, another layer of context if you wanted it.
So I just put alerts before it hits the trend lines just to remind me.
Yeah, you could do that actually. That's pretty smart. I would do it like not when it hits it, but like when it's getting close to it.
Yeah,
just to
right before. Yeah.
Back to this shit.
Did you start the trend line on the large dip? Oh yeah, you did. Okay, cool.
Started from here because of how massive this rally was, and then first I aligned it with this one, and then I seen that it aligned with everything else. I kind of barely started looking at it from the 20th, so I haven't been paying attention to it too crazy, but I did notice that he was mentioning it pretty often, so I was like, all right, let me just look at it. But I also didn't mention it to you guys because I didn't want to like add another layer of things for you guys to have to pay attention to.
As long as I don't have to chart it every day, I'm fine.
So this day, 59.91. What time was it at? Oh, this is still the first 5 minutes. Okay.
Is this Friday or Thursday?
The 16th. So I had seen 1,300 lot buyer. I don't know at exactly what time. It looks like it might have been 30, 35, 40, around 45. On the green candle that popped up, I think. And 59.91 was right where the demand started.
Wait, are you on Bookmap? Because I can't see anything.
Oh my god.
This guy.
So we were just chopping for the first 10-15 minutes for a bit. This outlier did appear, but it wasn't at no zone, so I didn't really pay attention to it.
So you just
I will
completely
say
ignore outliers that aren't in the zone now?
what?
You just completely ignore outliers that aren't in the zone now?
Yeah, but I will say I did note to myself like, oh, an aggressive buyer appeared and it tried to pop and the market didn't allow it to keep going. So I just noted that like that's weakness because a strong buyer tried and failed. But I didn't consider it as a level or a trade that I wanted to take.
Weakness in the overall, like, in the overall scheme of things, or like weakness in that exact moment?
Weakness in the overall scheme of the direction that the market is trying to go. Like
Yeah,
aggressive
so if this aggressive buyer didn't push up or didn't push up too much and it sold off and then it came back up but kept selling off, or like what? That would be weakness? Or?
yeah, so for example, this we're not in a zone. This outlier appeared, strong buyer, and market failed. Market popped up again, and it dropped, fell under the large buyer. So in my head, I'm like, okay, the market's weak. It's showing me selling pressure here. So when it came down into demand, I that's what helped me know like, okay, there's a potential that this may break through demand because buyers are struggling overall.
Ooh,
Gabe,
damn, that was a jam.
Gabe, are you saying that you do care for outliers that are not in your zones?
Well, I paid attention to them. I mean, this whole week was to get me not to trade with them, but I do like for instance. Oh wait, no, it was in a zone yesterday. But I do pay attention to them. But yeah, I don't know.
I definitely take note of them. I'll like make a line for them, but one of my rules that I'm like forcing myself to follow is no trades if it's not in my zone.
Yeah, that's a good one. I need to keep doing that.
Where the fuck did this outlier appear at? Is it coming up? Oh, it was around 6. Oh, okay, it's coming up. And clearly coming into my demand here, this was strong selling. So my idea here that this buyer didn't have follow through, and then this other buyer shows up. This was my outlier, 1,300. So I'm already like the market is weak. It's struggling. Let me slow it down. So now in my head, I'm like, I need to try this short when it pops up. If it fails, and the weak buying coming into it,
And this outlier or the first one?
this outlier. This is in my demand zone now.
Oh, okay.
Is that where I took it? I think it popped one more time on with weakness, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be my chance right there. 59.89 was the outlier, struggling at 59.88 after it just struggled again. And I got in right here. I was just like, let me try it.
I was mad
87
when I heard you say
with
out.
my stop at 89. I was scared though, because at 7 a.m. we did have news.
This guy. All these rule breakers. Every time y'all do that, I'm gonna hit you with the Matthew McConaughey line. Law says you can't touch. I see a lot of lawbreakers in here. When does it go in your
But
face?
news could also be what helps push the market to your target. So kind of tough there.
Roulette at that point.
I don't even remember what the news was.
Uh,
Oh, it was business inventories. So I think that's also why I was like, it's not like some CPI news or PPI.
There's
So I was
also
open
housing
to,
market index.
yeah. It does bring in some volatility. It just isn't like a super important piece
Is
of
that what you
news.
take note of when it comes to news? Is like news, like what? Obviously, it's like you've already understood what news are important, but in regards to context, it's like it just brings more volatility during that time.
Yeah, because I don't want to be in the news report that it like CPI that's gonna make it swing crazy and then it just pushes me out of my position and then goes back in my direction. Like I don't want to be in that shit.
When I'm in a
And
trade and this happens, this little push, oh, it feels so good.
yeah, but I was already out. I got out like at this area here right before the news was gonna release.
Uh,
81 and I entered at 7 points, I think. Yeah.
I've been
Stupid
I've
though.
been trying to hold longer to my target so I can get more money.
See here, what I should have done honestly was go to break even because there was 7 points in my direction. There was no buyers even showing their presence. Oh, I'm fucking stupid.
There's a Valiant tail though, isn't it? Isn't that something?
Value tail?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that.
On the CVP.
Did you see an order series? Order flow series?
Yeah, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's just a little tail on CVP, right? And SVP.
Yeah.
Wait, where did you see that?
On CVP and
An
SVP.
order flow.
But like, what? Like right now you see it, or prior to it?
It's like when the orders are waning, like drifting lower and lower, and creates like a tail, like how it looks right there. It's like a tail to the big orders, except for right there. No, you zoomed out too much.
I didn't zoom out. I rewinded. I was gonna
Oh,
say, you what does that tell you though?
well, it says the orders are drying up. So if selling is going down and there's a volume tail, that means selling orders are drying up, which means buying orders are stepping in, which
Oh,
could cause
yeah,
a reversal.
I do remember that. So, would you have held for this or what?
Well, no, I was tripping out. You took a short on in demand.
Oh,
This guy's loco.
but you do see though, like how this is strong selling, and then
Yeah, no, it was
buyers.
clean.
And then
You even waited at the perfect time to enter too. I wouldn't have waited that patiently.
I'll just be practicing.
Were you demoing all
But
weekend?
yeah, I've been demoing all month, following my rules, dog. Although I have to take one live trade at some point this next 2 weeks.
I'm gonna take one demo trade on Tuesday to see if I'm still messing up, which is to gauge where I'm at, and then I'll see what happens.
I was considering that too, but then I'm like, okay, now I'm trying to like alter my rule of not trading all month. So I don't know what to do, to be honest.
Is this another V or what?
This then rallies, it chops for that hour that Eloy was trying to get in, and then rallies massively.
I think on that retest, because you took a short at 7:05, I got in for another short, thinking the first trade you take is gonna happen again. That was dumb as fuck. Because it's also in my supply.
Yeah.
I mean, in my demand.
Less probability. That's one thing I'd say to avoid is if the trade played out, don't try it again. It could work, but just to be on a defense, I wouldn't try it again.
Yeah.
At least for now.
Like 30 more minutes at most. I gotta shower real quick too. We go.
We took a trade
Are they
today.
ready?
I understand.
Or are they probably
Eli?
not gonna shower right now? Time's gonna be 30 more minutes.
He ignored you.
Mm-hmm.
My bad. Say it again.
I was just asking if you took a trade today, or is it on this day?
Yeah. So the loss of the retest of trying to do Eric's trade, and then I took another long at 7:12. Oh, so yeah. At 7:12, I took a long, and then it went past my stop by a little bit, and then goes in my favor. But I just got out.
That's good following your stop though. But yeah, on the at 7:12, there was really no outlier to take it off of, unless you were trying to use this one, but they had already made the move, so I wouldn't have relied on that.
Yeah, I mean,
I would have been more interested.
What price is that? That outlier right there that you were just on? Yeah,
978.
so I made my stop.
If I were you, but
I was gonna say I made my stop like right there. I think no, I don't know where. I made my stop 79, and it got to 78 when I got out.
Yeah, it did hit your stop. But what I was gonna say, if I were you, the fact that we were bound after this sell off occurred, this right here was 2 hour demand for me, 59.73. And then the fact that this outlier was right here, 1,000 lots, 59.78, I would have waited for a push up, then that pullback to hold this outlier here, which it did, and then take that. That was higher probability than waiting for it to come all the way back again over here. Although it did work, but we ended up chopping for so long. Or even right. Let me see. No, that's not big enough for my liking. I wouldn't do it. But yeah, I think this was the higher probability. This entry.
Yeah, as I'm looking at it right now again, I'm like, why did I enter so early? Why did I set that stop? Because I'm like, it's not even the ultimate bottom.
Oh, your stop, yeah. Maybe it was just emotions. That's all I got for this, though.
All right.